And we are now live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have a special event, a return to form. Coming back from the conquered lands of far, we have Troy Torres, a.k.a. Mistah Mahvel.
Hey, what's up, guys? Glad to be back finally. Hold some court with the very infamous Mr. Larry King.
Well, very infamous indeed. I am a troublemaker of whole steam. I cause trouble where I go. I'm an engine of chaos. I can't help it. I'm sorry. It's just the way I am.
There's no pot you leave unstirred.
Well, I've been called communist. I've been called Nazi. I've been called pretty much everything under the book because I go by the beat of my own drum. But it's more of a flute. But whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like we do our own things. We got we have our little empires we're building. Like currently, you're coming soon to a ComixCentral near you. We got JuanPool #2 coming out, correct?
Yes, I have begun production. Now, when I say I've begun production, I'm not necessarily paneling yet. I've actually learned a lot from doing part one, and I'm actually going to be producing a lot of the secondary art first. Because where I found myself losing time was I'd go to panel a page and be like, oh, I really need this specific object in because you know how I work. I won't try and draw something small in the panel. I make a fully realized background piece and then shrink it down, put it in there, and show you just a little corner of it. So it's as organically real in the scene as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working on things like that. So also what I've been doing is setting up location backgrounds where a big enough piece lets me use several locations within that piece. Like, let's say I'm drawing an interior. Like, I'm going to be drawing the interior to Late Night Comics, the fictional version of Late Night Comics that exists in Earth 121. I'm probably going to end up drawing the whole store out as a complete file so that I can bring it into the panel to the specific parts of the store they're at, just for consistency, for ease, and so that, let's say, one scene is in the shop, one whole page takes place in the shop, I can now take that separate art file, move it around in several different ways within the page without having to produce that in the page, worry about the figures on the page and visual narrative. Just because, like I said, I learned a lot. I know that's probably not how other people do it, but I'm glad because my whole life I've always done things my way, and that's how I get the results I get.
That's an amazing way to do it. Honestly, like I look at this, like there's really no wrong way to make comics unless you're like tracing other comics wholly, like a lot of like I mean, there's people that have done that in the past. But what you're doing, like you're actually doing it a smart way. I've done something similar where I'll draw like if I know this scene's gonna be set in a room and the characters aren't gonna be moving around too much, I'll draw that room out at a bigger size and then, like you said, shrink it down or move it around like with the adjust it to where I need it to be.
Right.
And it's like kind of like how it's like old school cartooning, like Hanna-Barbera in a way. Except like, instead of just being the same panel, like a lot of these people like to complain about, oh, it's two figures in the panel and it's just the same panel repeated, all that. It's different figure work, but the background's very similar. It just moved around because of people maybe moving around the room left or right. Maybe they walk towards the window, they walk towards the door, walk towards the table, what have you. And that's what you're doing. And like that's actually a really good idea. And I think that a lot of people they learn from what they see in the comics, but what you see, you might not be actually paying attention to the visual kind of design behind the storytelling, like what you're doing. That's, I mean, and like I say, you learn from volume, from issue 1, which I loved issue 1. Like, dude, you killed it. You killed it at issue 1.
Thank you so much, Larry.
You're very welcome. Because that's the thing. It's like I'm looking at this and like, because I know it's all the hard work you put into it. And I'm like, shit, you're killing it. I'm like,
well, I mean, I talk a lot of smack.
And you delivered though.
So I have to deliver. You know what I mean? And once again, you know me. The very moment before, the very second I had the PDF file in my hand and I was going to hit submit to ComixCentral, I was like, oh, wait, this comic sucks. What am I doing? What am I doing? I can't really go through with this. And it was like, well, it's too late. That's it. You've made a comic. Go through with it. And, the cold feet was there. But I'm glad I was just like, you know what? Give them what they want. And I'm glad. I'm glad everything turned out great. And like I keep saying, I learned so much about creating a comic. And I think my biggest setback in paneling and creating was accepting that I'm not going to look like Todd McFarlane. I'm not going to look like my favorite comic artist because I'm not them. They panel the way that they panel. Their
Exactly.
books come out the way they do. Something that really helped out, I pulled out a box of old comic books, just started reading through them and reminding myself everyone did theirs different. That the only consistent theme is there's a visual narrative happening. Some people put a fully fleshed background in every single panel. Some people do just some colors to give a sense of the important thing is the person. And I just kind of started developing this sense of when to do a full background in the panel, when to just close in on somebody, when to completely cut them out and put them in their own place on the page. And you start to build this confidence of, all right, I'm making a style. This is my style. When people open up a comic before they even read the cover, they know this is a Mistah Mahvel style book. And I'm ready to really bring it. I think my production should be even quicker now because I have a sense of what I want to do per page.
That really could help out because that, like you said, like you figured out what you want. It's like it's a plan of attack. You know, you're going at the pages like almost like, you know, like you're going to war. You're going to war with the story, you know, and that right there, people. I've had people like they'll go and like, oh, people are lazy, don't draw the backgrounds. Not every panel needs a background, and for non-artists, just comic readers in general that have read certain books, like in only certain books, like they stay within their own group. I mean, I've read, you know, like me, Mr. Comic Book Snob, but I've read everything from indie books to French to comics from the UK, Japanese, you know, the manga stuff, tons of, I mean, American, old, new. Panels don't always have to have the background, like you're saying, like focusing on certain characters, taking like your own visual, I guess not theology, but like, you know, your methodology when it comes to the panels and how to lay them out. That's something people forget, that if you don't, you know, if you're not focused on like, hey, oh, I got to draw a couch and a table and the bookshelf in the background, even though it's gonna be covered up by word balloons, I got to
Right.
draw
That's
that. It's like,
another thing too. Like in because the first few pages I drew, when I went to go letter them and get everything in there, I'm like, wow, I could have just avoided time. Like there were even some Easter eggs I got mad and I had to figure out how to really letter out the page because it was like, wait a second, that just covered up my Easter egg.
yeah, that's happened to me. That's happened to me before. Like I've done stuff, and it's just stuff like I wanted to show off with, but the word balloons is a comic book. You got to have word balloons. It's like, all that work I put into figuring out that, and then it just, you know, I got to cover it up with word
You
balloons.
know, I gotta say, you actually influenced the Badger bitch section. The Badger at you influenced it, and actually in a way that you might not even realize. When I was getting ready to do the page, I was originally gonna do a big splash page of Badger bitch just breaking through that door. And that very day, you sent out a tweet reminding everybody they used to get humongous amounts of action in little fucking boxes.
Yeah.
And now people are just making these splash pages to sell the print. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to step up to that challenge. I bet you I'm going to get all her action into a bunch of little squares. And I did it. Thank you, Mr. Larry King, for reminding me. Back in the 90s, they every panel was packed with action. They didn't save it for the splash.
You're very welcome, because, dear God, I'm looking through some of these books. I looked through a more recent X-Men book, and it's the first 3 pages are nothing but a dinner sequence where people are hugging each other, and I wanted to just... I didn't even have the book in my hand. It was a digital preview. I wish I could just rip up every copy. It was so horrible looking. This would not fly. This is a waste of money.
Well, from there on in, dude, I couldn't unsee it. I can't unsee it now. Now, anytime, and that's why I don't like to read modern comics. And I feel I'm missing out because I'm sure there's some really good books still. I believe that there's still some good stuff out there, but I just don't want to take a chance. God, like, my only splash page in JuanPool is the one that I wasn't gonna concede ground on, and that's when he breaks out of everything and regains his color in the source and breaks out.
Yeah, that right there was appropriate. like when I was reading that right there, that's exactly what needed to happen, because a lot of people, they'll emphasize the splash pages on the wrong pages. They'll do the like, oh wow, somebody will just like walk into a room. Like, no, you don't need to do that. Maybe like you can make that maybe a third of the page, like have the, you know, like you could. There's multiple ways you could do that with and have the same impact. And all right, you just wasted a whole splash page just for this. But what you did it correctly, as far as I'm concerned. Like my interpretation, my reading of it, my opinion,
Right.
you
I
did it
wanted to have
correctly.
that. There's nothing more important than Juan breaking out of the source and regaining himself. That's it. There's nothing more important for this page. And that's when it was like, nah, I'm not putting that into a small panel because I'm going to lose the power that I have behind it, especially the way I set up all the way to it. You know, that's where he's finally come to terms with, I think I might be dead, but I think I'm in heaven finally, and there's nothing that can stop me anymore. And bam, no. And if you look at it, it's actually one of the parody pages. He's in Neo pose. That's Neo. I ripped off Neo. He's holding his hand out, and he's saying no, same way Neo did. It's a parody page. So one of my favorite. Slip that in there. That's a little Easter egg. That's Juan pulling a Neo and saying, I am the Juan, and no, I won't listen to your rules, and I have broken your system. Because I try to parody not just comics, but a lot of different things. Because I love a lot of different sources of media. So, which once again is another parody with how they like to put pop culture and date books. With pop culture, I parody that by, you know, referencing every little bit of pop culture you can from several different generations, so that it's dated more of an era instead of a decade.
Yeah, because that right there get really, like, really old really quick if you just kept it in one specific time. You know, like, you know, oh, he's referencing American Idol. Oh, he's referencing, you know, whatever, Britney Spears shaving her head. Da, da, da. It sets it in such a specific time, it gets old really quick.
Right.
And that right there, like, you know, you spreading it out and, like, you know, kind of a lifespan of, you know, a culture, that helps out a lot. You know, that allows it to has more legs, and it keeps it more nimble.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, but that's great, man. Like the fact that, you know, you are not, you know, you're not pigeonholing yourself to one little thing. And that's, some people forget that. It's like they, you know, they figure, oh, I'll get my little group and that's all I'll need, this little tiny little niche. But then I figure out that's the problem with comics today. It's like so many, like you could hand JuanPool off to pretty much anyone, I think, and anybody can, you know, read it and enjoy it without having like to have to know all the origins behind it. You know, our little comics community on Twitter and this and that and all that. You can actually enjoy it. It's a fun book, and that is one of those things about comics people forget. It's like, oh, I can make a little niche comic that only a certain group of people get and enjoy and buy, and I'm fine with that. I'm like, no, you can, bigger audience, you can go bigger, you know, and I think you have that potential.
Plus, just some guy blew my mind away with a video either last week or earlier this week where he has a theory that Watchmen destroyed comics. And I mean, I like all his points he makes, they're there, and you're like, wow, Watchmen really did. It destroyed everything because now everybody's trying to deconstruct the hero, except, you know, they're not Alan Moore.
Yeah,
you know, they don't know how to write to that level, and it's now my mission to reconstruct the hero. It's time to build up that awesome person you look up to, and they're just a beacon of moral goodness. It's time to reconstruct the villain and make them just hateable for a while. Stop making them sympathetic. That sucks. Stop it. Give me a villain that I hate, that when he shows up, I'm like, oh, I hate this guy. I can't wait for JuanPool to punch him in the face.
See, that's what's missing. Like, hero, no, seriously though, it's your hero is only as good as their villains, and so many villains today, like, oh, you gotta feel bad for them. I go back to License to Kill, the James Bond movie, the last Timothy Dalton movie, and Sanchez in the movie, Robert Davi, feeds a dude to a shark. The guy's like, oh, you're gonna kill me with a shark, and like, he ain't gonna kill him, just make a shark eat off your arm and leg. He's gonna cut your wife's heart out. He's like beating women. I mean, this guy's a bad guy. This guy isn't like, oh, wow, I feel bad for him. Maybe he had a bad childhood. He's like, no, I want to sell cocaine, blow planes out of the sky, cut women's hearts out, chew people up with great white sharks. He blows a dude up with decompression tank. He puts him in one of those decompression tanks like you go down to the bottom of the ocean. this is a bad man. This is like Magneto. Oh, you feel bad for him. He has ideology. You know, he survived the concentration camps, and he just disagrees with Xavier. Oh, Doctor Doom. He's just a very vain man who just trying to reach out. Oh, he's
And
worried
even
about his mother. Is in hell. Like, no, we need bad people. We need like it's the rip out your heart, you know, and laugh at you kind of bad people. You need those kind of people.
Look, one of my favorite villains all time is the Beast from Kung Fu Hustle.
It's funny you say that. I'm
one of my favorite villains because he gave the greatest line ever to some of the combatants. He said, "I either want to kill you or be killed by you." That is a great villain. I have no other care in the world. I'm just really powerful. I'm really strong. I can kill everything in my path. So I'm dying for the day to meet the person that can actually kill me back. So we're fighting until either you prove me that I can kill you or you prove that I can't kill you. That's a great villain.
That is a great villain. Yeah,
I don't have any other motivation. I don't want money. I don't want fame. I was just fine living in jail. I put myself there myself. What did he do in the debut? He took the guy's gun, shot his head, and caught the bullet at point blank range right next to his temple. That's the greatest villain I've ever seen. He said, "Why do you want to hire me? Because this." Great. Oh, that's great stuff. Let's get these villains back. I think the reason Heath Ledger's Joker was a great villain was because he had no origin. He came in a piece of shit. He continued to be a piece of shit. He gave you nothing to sympathize over, and he left the movie the winner. Boom. It's the greatest villain we've seen ever. In fact, it didn't even have to be the Joker. You take that same structure and give it to any villain, and everyone would have loved that movie for the villain. Because it's very rare we get a villain that's just fucking evil because I just have fun wrecking shit up. And I hope to create that kind of villain where it's like, I give you no reason to like them. You're just going to hate them and you're going to want to see them lose. And that's when you deny the reader for a while so you get a good story.
Yeah. So
you give them something you give them something that they're going to really hate buying next issue because they know the villain's in the lead right now. But they got to see what's happening.
Exactly. That's one of the things about, like, there's no urgency when you're reading a lot of comics these days. And it doesn't matter if they're, you know, the big two, creator-owned books, it doesn't matter. Because a lot of people have forgotten what it's like to do good villains and, like, telling compelling stories. And that's another thing. It's like they think, oh, well, we maim and torture our heroes. That equals a good story. It doesn't. I mean, you want to care about that hero. You want to care about the story. You want to see the villain get their ass kicked. And most times it doesn't happen. The villain wins, but not all the time. But you got to have heroes you care about. Not this, the hero is flawed and all this. Like,
yeah,
it's over Marvelization of things. And that's the biggest problem I have with comics like, one of my favorite, I love the old Captain Marvel, Billy Batson, Shazam, all that, the Wizard. And then you'd have something like Spider-Man. It's like the great power comes great responsibility. I'm like, dude, you're just you're a dickhead who got guilty because your uncle died because of your own bullshit, choices. And so you go around, beat people up. You beat up people in colorful costumes. And your villains like, oh, they're tragic people. Oh, Dr. Octopus, the Vulture, and then like I could care less. That's like Spider-Man.
Really your friend.
Yeah, exactly. Like your teacher is he's missing an arm. He all he wanted is this arm back, and I'm like, give me that.
He made a mistake for science.
It's so bad. It's like that. That's why I can't take Spider-Man seriously. I mean, I've enjoyed some.
I love Spidey though. I like to roast them, but I've always been a fan of Spidey, so I can't.
Now, Kraven's Last Hunt, that's the best Spider-Man story because Kraven in there did not fuck around. He was a bad man in that book. Like he pulled, like, he was like pre-WWF. He was like casket match. He beat up Spider-Man, tranked him, buried him, then took the suit and jumped around the city as him. I mean, it was fucking great. I loved it.
I'm glad you brought up wrestling because there's certain angles that do comic books justice that we've forgotten about.
Yeah.
Getting back to villains, like a good wrestling arc, the villain needs to win all the way into the last special event, and he needs to win for almost the whole last fight until the hero gets his spirit back and just whoops his ass in a final triumphant moment. It sounds cliche, but it fucking works. It works. You know, you write it well, you write it unique to the hero, but I believe in a story of the villain wins to the end.
Yeah.
The hero gives them their one-uppance at the very end of the story, and that's because you've built it to that point, and the urgency's there so bad that the hero just digs down deep and shows you his truck cut. Like I said, I'm reconstructing the hero. I really think we need to start bringing back the golden age of comics back, where heroes are gods amongst men, you know, and no longer tragic men that hate their lives and don't want to be heroes, and they need to tell you why and why society's bad. And get out of here. Get out. Give me a good romp. Give me a good beat 'em up. You know, let's have some fun. Which is huge influence on how I made JuanPool. I wanted people to have fun. I didn't want to do the brooding superhero, and I'm pretty good at making those.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I can do the same thing, but it's like but like reading that on a regular basis, it gets you so burned out. And that right there, it's the idea of like, oh wow, a hero that actually likes being a hero, that does the right thing, faces down real evil. It's so rare these days. It's like this. If somebody's so earnest and like there's a I got accused of being cynical in the chat. It's like Larry's so cynical, cynical as fuck. But no, it's like this idea of hero, like in the world, the hero would have it like they would not people not trust the hero because I mean that's just the way it goes these days. I mean I've still read good books like that. I read one today called T-Bird and Throttle by Josh Howard. Real good book, real fun. But it's a very cynical take on superheroes. But I love the take on it. But yeah, there should be more like earnest superhero comics. Like like old school Superman, Legion of Superheroes, old school Batman stuff. Even though Batman, I'm more like I lean towards more Superman, Captain Marvel, stuff like that, where he battles a giant atomic robot and he battles, a mind controlling worm caterpillar, shit like that. Weird, fun comic booky shit. But that's missing because a lot of this stuff, it's like, you got to put him in a hoodie and you got to give him, my name is Shazam now. I'm like, you can't say that name. You do, you lightning bolt will come down, turn you into Billy Batson. That doesn't work. You call out their bullshit. But it's like it's gonna be so modernized.
Sorry.
No, it's so good, man. It's so good. But no, like what you're saying is like you bring him back, and what you did with and you actually I'm so anti comic origins, but you turned me around with JuanPool 1, and that right, I was like, damn it, he's got me turned around. I'm like, oh Jesus, we got an origin story, but it's actually a fun one, and that's the funniest thing. It's like
the only reason I needed to go with an origin, because I agree, I'm tired of origin stories. I actually like to see a hero jump into it, and then along the line, you slowly piece together what makes him a hero. But when you have like a specific character like JuanPool, needs to be explained beforehand. If not, I'm throwing this big dude in a tight little, very show-offy skin suit, bumbling around. He needs to be built. You need to understand why a JuanPool would be before a JuanPool gets to be. Because we already know what he's going to be. I think everyone can already guess. He is going to be a fun merc that goes around getting into fun adventures. We already know this. But you got to know why. You got to see how, or else you can't take it serious. He won't be I want him to be a hero, not a parody. Like, I'm building a superhero that I want to be able to work with other people with. He has to be legit. He can't be a joke, or I failed. The only way to take a meme and make him real is by actually taking him serious. So that's what I do with JuanPool. And therefore, he needs to be explained, or else you're not going to really get it. You're going to laugh at him instead of laughing at the story, which is the point. JuanPool's not who you laugh at. You laugh at everything he's doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people they would approach it just like, oh, look how goofy this guy is, but that's about it. And like, he's a one-off joke. Okay, there you go. And like, it'd be burned out really quick. But like,
Real quick.
I totally get where you're coming from, where you want to build up, and like some stories, yeah, you do need an origin, you do need that set up. And but I mean, I guess because so many comics, we got to do the world building, and this, and like, and it gets so tired so quick, and because it's done in a bad way. And when I mean bad, it's done where everything's got to be meticulously explained out. Like, this is why this is why that. It's like the Batman Begins effect. I don't even know how he got his cape and his grappling hook, and he got his car. Give me a fun story. Give me a Batman story. Give me Batman kicking ass, taking names, not none of this. Oh, I really love this girl. Should I fight crime or be with the girl? That kind of bullshit. Don't give me that.
Right.
This is Batman. He's not going to go with a girl. He might get hooked up. He might even marry, but he's not going to give up his life of fighting crime for some trim. So,
yeah, especially a girl that like gets ugly with time.
Exactly. Gets uglier and less alive with time.
Yeah. Like, really? You could have given up on her because she's ugly now and has another dude. That's kind of your boy, too, so you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like, it's just like, so badly done. It was
Even though I still enjoyed them. I enjoyed that trilogy. I didn't really like the last one as much.
The last one was funny as fuck, though. I couldn't help myself but laughing. I saw that midnight showing. I saw all 3 midnight showings, and I'm not a fan of all 3. I'm not a fan of all 3. Like, there's bits and pieces. Like, if you put it together, I could really enjoy. But I'm like, even Dark Knight, like, oh, greatest movie of all time. I said, yeah, I've seen this when I saw Heat. I've seen Michael Mann movies. This is just like bad Michael Mann fan film. It's like, I mean, I'm just brutal as fuck when it comes to it. But like, it's that kind of stuff. It's like, you have to, you have to care, and they have to make you care. Like when they do origin stories, and you made me care.
I'm glad I was able to build a nice cast, build a nice world, and I'm actually excited. That's part 2 is where the world really comes to life. That's where I start to show you Earth 121. I show you New England. I show you Citytonville. And that's how you pronounce the name of his town, Citytonville. Get it? Citytonville. It's just, I know it's a dad joke, but I wrote it, so you can't do nothing about it. So it's Citytonville, New England, in the fictional Earth 121. And I'm actually very excited to finally bring out the radical nemesis, because she has stolen my heart as I made this story. I like her a lot. She's actually an older character that I readapted for this. And she works so much better. And I'm glad I found a home for her where I can make my character come to life. And I think she needed JuanPool. And I'm glad I'm going to get to bring her out. And that's why all the promo art has been either strictly her or her and him. Because that's going to be my selling point. Come watch Juan and the Radical Nemesis be friends, because their friendship is one of those really fun, odd couple pairings visually. Mm-hmm. But you accept them right away, and you're like, yeah, no, I couldn't see them being friends with anybody else but each other. And that's what I want to build. And I've said it on other live streams, and I'll say it too, just in case, so that we get no art, no fan art. There is no romance between Juan and the Radical Nemesis. They almost have a family-like feeling for one another. So please no shipping them or pairing them together, because that would be creepy to me. You know what I mean? That would be...
The hardest you try, man, they're probably going to do it anyway. That's how fucked up people are.
I thought about it right after. I was like, oh, man, I know I'm getting tagged in some bad stuff.
But, well, hopefully it's just going to be badly drawn, and so you can just dismiss it really easily, not like somebody spent a lot of time drawing something fucked up.
That is fundamentally against me as an artist. I appreciate every level of art. I am not an art snob. I always say it. Anyone can approach me, and my DMs are always open. If you want to talk art with me, you don't have to be intimidated. I like to talk art. I don't level us out. Yeah, I mean, or I should say, I level everybody down to the same level. That's the kind of campaign you're going to run with me. I don't say, oh, he has this high level, he has that low level. we're just all the same level. I love art. I love to push people through their art. I love to see people draw and really like pull off great pieces because I'm more about finding the love in the work. That's
Unless
what
if
I do.
somebody's really cocky. I've had that happen. I've had some people, hey, can you know, give me some
Yeah,
feedback, this and that. And I'm like, I'll be honest, I help them out. And then this person, I think they're about 12 or 13 or so, like, you know, like contact me and everything. I'm like, okay, like start replying to me. And I had to mute them because it just kept on like, you know, like this, you know, like, well, I don't really, you got to change this. I'm like, yeah, well, the face is really messed up here and here. Like, I mean, I'm saying it in a nice way. I'm not saying like, you know, like, it looks like shit, quit, give up, you know, that kind of stuff. But it was this
right.
guy like multiple times a day. I'm like, I'm not getting paid this. I don't mind helping out occasionally or mentioning something, but this isn't a class I'm running or anything.
Oh
It's
well,
like,
at that point, they're at that point they get the same treatment my friends do, and you can attest to this, and you can say you can confirm. I just jump off for a while. Sometimes you don't hear from me. I do that,
mhm.
uh, and that's it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just won't hear back from me. It's a bad habit. I apologize, but that's just me. Sometimes I'm like, whatever. I'm not checking this stuff. I don't know. That's just me. I'm still of that generation that, like, I'm not too keen on social media. I'm not that thrilled about being on social media. It's a great tool, and it's given me a career. Uh, Literally, it's given me the career that I have now at this point. But I'm not really good at it, and I don't have that natural alarm to go check my social media. Thank God, because I heard it can get addictive.
It really can. I mean, that's one of the things people forget about it. That there are people. I try not to be. I'm like I try not to. Like I get my commission gigs from Twitter as well and other
Right.
and DeviantArt and other stuff and my email. So it's like I try to have all or just some of them open at the same time in case get like if there's a paying gig, I want to go ahead and start working on it. So I go ahead and start getting paid. You know, and that's that kind of thing.
Because I
And
mean, I've gotten heavy into it, and it sucks you away, man.
it can really suck you away. But like, luckily for me, I'm like I treat my social media like I would treat a garden. I don't let it get overgrown. I don't let it go get out of
Right.
control. And a lot of people, it's like, oh well, like they get like I've never like anybody that starts doing the like, oh, I think about leaving social media. I'm like, well, I've unfollowed people that do that. It's kind of like the I don't like. I'm not saying it ain't the equivalent of contemplating suicide, but it's that like give me attention and everything like that. It's like that's what it feels like to me at very least. It's like either you shit or you get off the pot. You want to stay or you
Right.
leave. You stay or go.
Well, I
And
mean, from firsthand experience, I'll say I know I've definitely bitched, but luckily I've gathered the right amount of friends that always put me in my place and they're like, "Stop bitching." And usually at that point, I'm like, "Wait, oh, damn, you're right, my bad."
but when I bitch righteously. I don't really have that many people tell me otherwise. It's like I've had people say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I explain to them and I've only had maybe one or two occasions where it's like I don't see where you're coming from, but hopefully it works out. That kind of thing. It's only been like
Right.
that. But yeah, man, it's like there's some like the one thing I'll bitch about, and like we talked about this previously, uh, with your profile getting bigger. I mean, I for the longest time I was hovering around like 300 followers. I mean, but I started putting more work out there, busting my ass more, and grew my follower account. And as you have as well. I mean, I've seen you go from what I think it was like you went from like what 600 to over 1,000 and just what how long? It was like really it was pretty quick. I mean, that's good though.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm humble about those things. Uh, it it jumps depending on my mood. I've learned when I'm happy and positive, and I share my results, my followers grow substantially very quickly. When I'm a little bitch and I'm angry and I have a lot of fucking feelings about things that aren't worth dwelling on, I see it slowly build. Uh, so what I did find I get a huge jump to now that I work outside of the realm of like really conservative. You know what I mean? So I've opened my another thing I love about JuanPool, I think it finally taught me that I can draw things of any type and not care and be proud of it. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry. Yeah, I have a gay character and I feel like the man. You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, my superhero's gay, bro. Like, he's, you know, like, yeah, beat that. And he's good. And people love him. And I get fan art of him hugging his boyfriend. You know, like, there. What can you say? You can't say nothing about it.
Or reenacting the I'm flying sequence, you know, from Titanic.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, Larry.
Yeah.
I was very, well, not shocked, but like I wasn't expecting everyone to accept Robbie the way they did.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy because he's another one of those characters that I'm very fond of. Like
he's
you know
not written. He's written as a character, not a gay character, and that's the thing about all when these people, these so-called enlightened, you know, very enlightened, you know, progressive people, they write a gay character, not a character who happens to be gay, but a gay character. And it's the same thing like a black character or a Latin character or a foreign, like it's like a character first, then it happens to be something else. You know, like that what the person is actually informs the character. It's like that's why I don't 100% do the whole, well, why does the character have to be this? I'm like, you know, a white man and a black man going to have two different life experiences, but doesn't mean it has to be like the white man's got to run around with a white hood on, the black man's got to have the, you know, the afro and the fist in the air all the time. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't have to work that way.
No, not at all. Or you'll find too that if you want to make a diverse character, like you said, focus less on the traits that make them diverse. Build something good. You know, maybe you should write a story about an upper middle class black kid that never really gets it, never really fits in with the rest of like the American black culture. Write it good. Write it so that that's one of his inner conflicts as a character, that he feels like he isn't as black as he can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's great writing. You know, that inner conflict of, but I like myself, but people make fun of me. I don't want to change and act another way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that way, but I don't want to be that way. Write that hero, that's his struggle when his mask comes off. Yet when he puts it on, he goes right back to that community because he knows that's where he's needed the most. That's great stuff. I'm going to write that. Oh, man.
There you go. Inspired some more. There you go.
I got to come up with his motivations, man. Like, that's good stuff. That's how you write a diverse character. Write a great character. My secret to Juan and Robbie, I just write a couple, and it's just, I just superimpose it onto them. Great stuff. That's why it comes off real. Because, like, I write from past experiences. You know, I've dated people. I've dated women. I've been in love with women. I've had relationships and lives with women. If what they say is true and heterosexuality and homosexuality are the same thing in their own ways, well, then that means that these two men have experienced the moments I have with a woman. That's all I need to write. That's all I need to write.
Integrating that real life experience into the story. It's like, that's the problem. A lot of these people, they've never got outside of and dealt with the real world. They've not had these experiences. They've not, like, you could sit in a coffee shop all day and expect to experience life. That ain't gonna fucking happen. You know? It's like
I could never write it because according to their definition, I could never even write these guys because I'm not gay.
Exactly.
So
it's like, how dare you write a white man? On behalf of Robbie, how dare you write a white man? You know?
You know, the best advice I got from all of my writer buddies was write what you know. So that's how I write their relationship. I tap into past relationships that I've had, and I adapt it to the scenario that I'm writing. You know, we've all had somebody not necessarily jump all the way into your arms because you may not be that big. I'm only 5'3". You may weigh as much as me, lady. Don't jump at me. We're both falling back. But I've had someone run at me, glad to see me because they didn't know if I was all right. So I already knew that scene. I knew how that scene would go out. Now just put it onto my characters that happen to be gay.
And that's the thing that's missing with a lot of these characters. Like, I mean, in comics, like, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, Marvel, DC, Alterna, Image, Dark Horse, you know, IDW, Boom. It doesn't matter if it's, or creator-owned books that you only hear about because of the comics community on Twitter. If you don't write characters that are relatable onto a slight degree. I'm not talking about I have to like there been I've related to Machine Man, X-51, Adam Stack. He's a freaking machine. He's a robot, like a pup. He's like Pinocchio in a way. If I can relate to a machine because it's written, the characters are written correctly and written to a slight relatability and written well, which you did that. Like you delivered that. That's. It seems so simple, but there's so many people that miss the mark, and
Yeah.
it's really unfortunate because it's like, yeah, that's some good art, but that's about it. Like, there's so many like, well, I'll just buy it for the artwork. I'm like, then that's like, it's like watching a movie just for the visuals. It's like I couldn't do that. Like I have to have more than that. That's not a complete movie. Then that's a failure. If your comic has bad writing, but it's a good artwork, that's a failure. It's as far as
I was
concerned.
crossing my fingers though, that I was like, if my writing sucks, I hope to God my art's good enough to give me a sliding pass. That's what I was banking on, to be honest. Though I was like, I hope my art beefs up my writing. But I'm glad I actually pulled off writing something good.
Well, and that's the thing. You were mentioning writers, and I've both you and I have encountered this, where writers and people will come out of the woodwork. Hey, we want to work with me on my project, and if you refuse, or maybe refuse because maybe you're too busy. Because I've had that happen before, multiple times. Like mainly, I've had a couple projects pitched to me, and I'm unable to do them because, well, even if I was interested, which I read the pitches and I look at the stuff and how much work is involved and everything, and if I'm busy or the pay isn't there. It's like one project I would have to do character design work on about a dozen characters. I have to do world design. I'd have to come up with all that. I'd have to pencil it, ink it, letter it, color it, and do logo work.
Wow.
And do basically do everything. Do everything I would normally do.
Book. So at that point, it's basically your book.
Exactly. So when that happened, I told the person, like there was this is what got me. $10 a piece for character designs and $50 a page for the artwork. We can negotiate on the colors, letters, and so on. And then it's like, well, we'll do profit sharing. And I told him, all right, we'll do profit sharing. We'll talk about profit sharing first. 80-20 my favor. So every $100 I get 80 of it. And if you got a problem with that, get somebody else. And of course, I never heard back from this person.
Wow.
I don't dick around.
I usually have good experiences. 9 out of 10 people, I usually get hit up. Actually, almost always get hit up by great people, very well spoken, that I always end up becoming friends with. So I'm lucky in that aspect. Every so often, you get that person that just, and like you said, there's something wrong with every single step of it. Well, what's your prices? All right, it's this. Damn, are you willing to negotiate? Well, there's room, but you're going to have to offer me more work. So the volume has to go up. All right, can you do all this for that? No. Well, I think you're being unreasonable. You're asking for a lot. Like you mentioned, if you have nothing but your written story and script, I have to design characters. I have to design a world. That's a lot of work. Sometimes people don't get that. If you don't have a concept already, then I have to start creating something from scratch, which means now there's the whole separate work of actually making characters. The back and forth of you okaying my designs, which can sometimes take time, depending on where in the country they live, and if your schedules meet up. A lot, and I didn't even know this until I started actually taking it in on higher volume. But a lot goes in. Some things just aren't simple. Even something like a pinup or a splash page. If you don't know what your own character looks like, I have to design them first. I now need to make the three view character sheet. I mean, front, side, back. I need to know what it looks like. I need to be able to have all the angles. What's his weapon look like? Does he have a logo? Do you see it on his suit? How's that going to wrap onto his chest, his belt, his side? her side.
And then having to get all that approved as well. It's like
What
somebody.
is their color scheme? Oh, I don't know.
God.
Really?
See, and that right there. See, I've grown to have I don't want to call it a hatred, a disliking, I guess you could say, of a lot of comic writers, because, or want to be comic writers, because I've encountered enough of them so far. They usually have no time. They have a lot of time on their hands because, you know, they're like a lot of writers. I mean, there are people that do design work as well, and they're busting their ass on their own comics. I have no problem with them. I'm talking about the ones like the kind of just sit in the coffee, you know, the coffee shops, and they just complain about this or that, and like they are actually accomplishing nothing. They might write a blog or two, or make a video. I mean, but that's about it. But when it comes to actually busting the work, like they'll write a shit ton of stuff for you to draw, and then you have to run it all by them. That's why I'm like, why I cut the middleman out? Why work with them? I just do my own stuff at that point.
Right.
And a lot of them, I think a lot of writers are frustrated artists, like to like a very, like there's writers like, yeah, I could do a little bit, but I just can't carry the book by myself. And like, you know, that's just natural. It's like some people just, it ain't for them. But when you got a lot of people that have you know, idle hands with Devil's Playground, it's very much like that for a lot of comic. Like I talked to Perch, everybody's favorite Perch. I talked to him, and he was at San Diego Comic-Con, and a writer just tweets something out just to cause, you know, drama, to stir some shit, just for shits and giggles, just to see themselves do that. And it was a writer. He didn't say it was a writer, but it was like it was a writer, and that kind of stuff. We see this all too often. There are more writers and more people with ideas, but less comic artists, less people willing to draw.
There is a bit of an artist deficit, but once again, like I said, I have a really good experience with writers. The writers I know, the guys I call my friends and my buddies, they're really great guys. And we're talking about the guys behind like the Ferryman, Jack Steele. I know great writers. I've had a great experience. And maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I'm just lucky. But I know some great guys, and they're, God, creative geniuses. I'd have to say so. And I actually have a lot of people that help me behind the scenes flesh out ideas. And that's why I'm always so willing to help out others with work, because I have no shame in saying, all right, well, you write. I have this idea, and I don't know how to make it happen. Write it, please. I'll trade with you. I have no problem with trades with writing. Actually, I like doing that.
Well, you know what you like, and that's like me. I've never been a team player. I'm more of a lone wolf. Yeah. Which, like, when they always do this, like, you know, you hear in the news, "Oh, it was a lone wolf shooter." I'm like, oh no, because like I feel like, you know, it's like one of those things. Like I when I did art projects in school, from elementary school all the way up to high school, like I would request to work alone. I'm like, can I just work alone? Because when they forced me to work with other people, I'd have a vision, and I'd have to compromise my vision to accommodate other people. And then at the end of the day, who would have to draw everything? Me. Well, Larry, you draw the best out of us. I'm like, I look back at my old artwork. I drew like shit. I was a shit artist back then. I got better as time went on. But I would get forced to do stuff and like have to work, you know, like by committee, and have everybody else tell me what it should be. And I was miserable. I hated it. And it's like, well, you didn't learn to compromise. Like, fuck compromising. You know, like, compromise. You know, I'm totally with Steve Ditko. No compromising. Just do. You know, like a man has his work, and that's about it. And like that's, you know, and it's my vision, my creative vision. If I'm putting effort into it, it should be me and 100% me, and nobody should have to say otherwise. You know, like you can interpret it whatever way you want once it's done. But like, oh, you should change this, you change that. Fuck you, I will not. This is what you get. And that's how I feel. That's a lot of my comics.
I don't know. I'm weird. I like to be part of other people's team, but my project is mine. And I'm a lone wolf when I work on my own stuff, because I'm mega George Lucas with things. And I just know better.
Shit. Jar Jar Binks confirmed. Issue 3 of JuanPool. Jar Jar Binks confirmed.
You know? Yeah. Jar Jar Rodriguez. He's happy.
Jar Jar Rodriguez.
I don't even know if I should do the voice. I don't know how racist me doing the voice. I'm Hispanic. I can get away with it, right? No, mi
Misa, come to
señora.
your barrio. Misa, get
Mi
the
señor.
burrito. Ay, ay,
Mi
ay.
señor, we're gonna help you. Oh, Misa in a lot of doo-doo. You know, like, no, I'm not really gonna. Maybe now I have to Easter egg it. Now I have to Easter egg it.
Yar Yar Rodriguez.
Yeah, yar, right? Yeah, with Y's. Thank you,
Yeah,
Larry.
yeah,
Yar
exactly.
Rodriguez. You know, Yar Rodriguez. I love it. Yeah,
I
Larry.
love it.
See what my friends do. Everyone helps me build JuanPool.
It's a
But
community project.
but I love to be on other people's teams. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Usually because I default end up being the lead artist.
Oh shit.
So but I'm never George Lucas with other people's stuff. That's when you see me be like the most upbeat, awesome. Like, I love being part of a team. I love the energy of everybody throwing in ideas. I love to see things get bounced around. I love to snowball things. Sorry. I like to roll snow down the hill and watch it become a big snowball. Sorry, Larry. I caught myself early enough, though.
Yeah, it's like it already started rolling.
It
And
already
trying to
started,
stop
yeah.
it.
And I was like, no, yeah. So I don't know. I'm a team player if it's someone else's project. If it's my own, I'd rather do it alone because that's when I'm a wicked dick and I'm like a perfectionist and I'm like, no, again. I become like a Russian gymnastics instructor. And I'm like, no, go do it again. No, that's it. You just lost all your dinner privileges for a week. That's it. You're done. Go to your room. I'm calling your parents and telling them I'm not training you anymore. And that's it. You're done. You're never going to fucking touch a ring again in this industry. So I usually just stick to it to myself because I have that it's not good enough feeling. And I'd hate to yell at someone because I have cold feet and they put all their all into this project because they believe in it. And I was just a dick because I had cold feet and then it comes out and everybody loves it. And I'm going to have to be like, I'm sorry, I was a piece of shit. So to avoid that, I just say, let me just cut that out and work on it myself. And yeah, take it from there.
Yeah, it's like when it like you're dealing with a comic like JuanPool, which is a birth on Twitter. Genesis was there, and a lot of people like. I think that our community is a beautiful and terrible one at the same time. It's
mighty. It's mighty.
Yeah, it's just like anything. It's not going to be like those that think, oh, it's pure and it's perfect and there's nothing wrong. It's like you're delusional.
No, it's not at all. It's like this. It's a presence. That's the word I'll use. It's a presence. It's there. People talk about it like it's not there and we're nobodies, but it's there. There's a presence. It's a huge presence. There are so many gifted creators. There's so many great projects going around. Big, small, known, not known, public, private, super shilled, barely shit. There's
oh God, you triggered me. You triggered me, my friend. The super shill stuff. It's like you made 10, 20, 30 times your asking. Stop. I don't. If I see a nut, like I'm got to the point where I start muting people. Like muting people I used to like. The super shilling needs to fucking stop. They're like, how much fucking money is? Whoa, they're making money. I can't follow it. I used to be like that too, and I was like, fuck them all. You got your fucking goal. Chill the fuck out. I'm done with this shit. I'm getting fucking tired of seeing like where someone's out there busting their ass. It's a 1-man operation or 2-man operation, max 3. There's like 3 people: writer, artist, colorist, and letterer, or whatever. They're busting their ass. While some motherfucker over here is raking in $250,000 and this and that shit, and or more. It's always something. It's like a lot of fucking money. I'm just saying, it's it gets to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, good for you. You made money. Can you go away for a while? Just shut the fuck up. So
I hear you. I know I've aired frustrations. To me, at this point, I've learned the best strategy for me as a creator. I just don't pay attention to things. No, I tend to not even go into like the feed. I usually stick to DMs and whatever I'm tagged in.
Or notifications. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot lately
like I
more.
click the
Yeah.
notification. I don't go in too much because the thing is, I actually get along with everybody, and I think I want to keep it like that. I got to a point I don't want to complain anymore. I just want to create. My complaining days are over. I know what's wrong in the industry. I know who is wrong in the industry. I know every toxic thing that has pushed us together into a community to bitch about it. And I'm done. And I don't mean I want people to be done. I mean, me personally, I'm done. I just want to make. You know, I think the greatest voice, the greatest weapon I can give to the community is me to continue to make my creation, because in itself, JuanPool is more powerful of a statement than any shit post I can do. And dude, I can shit post really fucking good.
I've seen.
You know?
But you're right though. Like that's the thing. It's like with me, like when I realize I'm getting so, like like I said, Twitter is any social media is like a garden, and if you don't let your garden, don't keep your garden, manicured properly, it's gonna get wild. The same thing, like you can stay in that garden manicuring that shit till the cows come home and the sun goes down and you're out there with a flashlight. It's like, get the fuck inside, go inside, be a human being, like get out of the garden. And it's the same thing, like when I realize, wait, what am I doing? Like this is pointless. Like, it's one of those, it's pointless kind of thing. So instead of doing that, I go, what's the best alternative? How to fight. You can't, some people say you fight fire with fire. I said, I'll fight fire with making my own comics, doing my own thing,
Right.
producing. And that's one of the things, like, there's a lot of consumers out there. Hey, that's great. I want people to buy my stuff. And I'm not going to tell people like, well, you think, you like this, you can't buy mine. Fuck you. I don't want your money. Like, no, I'm like, if you looks interesting to you, buy my comic. If it doesn't, oh, well, just don't, like, just try not to be a dick. But it's pretty simple.
Oh, I would never say, oh, if you like this person's creations, you can't have mine. Nah. Love everything you want. That's
if you like JuanPool, don't never buy my comics. I don't that kind of shit. It's like people are like that though.
And that's just how I roll these days. And I found that ever since I started sticking to fight back with my creation, that's actually the boost in my followers too. Because it allows me to really, have fun too at the same time. Like I said, I shit post pretty good, but I think I'm a better artist than a shit poster. Which brings me to the point. I think I want to start making my YouTube channel like a tutorial channel again, and just for drawing. The only reason I haven't been uploading things is because it kind of turned into a rant complaint about the industry channel, and I don't keep up with it enough to be able to make videos that would get views in time. So I know the feeling, man. I'm reading about something that went down, it's 2-3 days later, and in the internet, that's decades.
You're behind the times, Twitter. Grandpa.
Yeah. You're 3 days late to this thread, Grandpa. Jeez. Maybe you should get a faster phone, Methuselah.
People are like, what's Methuselah? Google. What's Methuselah?
I'm old.
Exactly. I know. I am too, man. I ain't no spring chicken myself, man.
And real quick, off topic. I think the biggest tragedy is because this newest generation didn't grow up with the Looney Tunes. Hear me out. I know they were goofy. I know they were violent. I know they were inappropriate. But they brought a certain level of culture to our childhood that doesn't come through in today's cartoons. Like their musical score was symphony, and not made up symphony for the cartoon, actual musical scores, like classical symphony written in Europe hundreds of years before. You know what I mean? Like we all know that when that little jingle, someone just woke up. There's a certain culture we got, like a level of higher sophistication, because Looney Tunes were made to entertain adults in the 50s and shit like that. That when we watched it in the 80s and the 90s, we got a certain part of American culture that was gone by then. You know what I mean?
Exactly. These are things shown before movies. Like they didn't have, not everybody had TV. TV did exist, But majority of Americans had to go to the movies to watch the news to get these cartoons, and this is before the movie would start.
Right.
So before you watch like one of those like noir films, there'd be like Looney Tunes up on the screen, you know?
Yeah. So when a millennial asks you, "Oh, why was Bugs Bunny cross-dressing? That's inappropriate." Well, that's because it was for adults. Because it's funny as shit when you're like 30 and you're drunk and you're in the middle of a movie with your buddy. And you're like, that fucking rabbit did it again. That fucking rabbit, man. You know, like, it's hilarious when you're like piss drunk in the 50s and you paid a dime to go see a bunch of cartoons. You know?
That's one of those things people don't realize, you know? It's like you're dealing with a different time and also different audience that stuff was aimed for. And they said, hey, let's put this in front of kids, you know?
Yeah. Pepe Le Pew is basically a rapist so that a bunch of like drunk Americans can laugh at the French.
Well, they ain't too far from it, though. I mean, shit.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't meant for kids. You're right. It's just, they're so funny. It entertained kids and made them shut up. But the parents were like, I can like this too.
Well, and it actually brings up something, because another thing is like now everybody's like, think of the children. And that is one of the things missing from comics, because there's so many people focused on, you know, because the adults have money. They're the ones that can afford to buy these books. But part of me wants to make a comic that, you know, a parent can read and their kid can read as well. But my stuff always geared like the next book I'm working on, which is it's 4 stories in one, or all, 4-page stories. It's called Ace Anthology Comic Experiment. Actually, I could share the cover and the back cover. I got the back cover done as well. Let me go ahead and bring up the cover. Here is the front cover for the story. There's Ace and everything. We got, which a very beautiful woman with a big old 90s gun. Soledad Fortuna, Devilry Girl, Blueberry X Waffle, Numoya, Makeup, and all 4 of these stories would not be kid appropriate. So, right. And it's like, I guess Umoya would be the closest one. His story would be the closest one, but yeah, they're not kid appropriate. Like, dear God, look at my back cover. I'm pretty sure that's not kid appropriate, you know. But
no, not at all.
I know
not
my audience.
Not at all. I mean, I wouldn't like. I would have made JuanPool more kid friendly, but he wouldn't have been as funny.
Yeah, that right there, you're sacrificing. Like this right here, I could have easily done like kind of cutesy, like a Betty Boop kind of deal. I didn't want to do that. I wanted something a little bit more visceral. I mean, that's why. I think there are at least one person dies in the comic, and not in a good way. So not in a peaceful, you know, Fortuna baby got back. Yeah, yeah, Braylon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
thicker.
She ain't messing around. She might have robot arm. She might have mechanical arms and legs, but that booty is all hers.
That booty's all woman.
That's all flesh and blood, baby. But yeah, that's the same thing.
Love.
But see, that's what's missing about books. I think where like I could go pick up an X-Men comic from the '80s and read it as an adult, or I could have read it as a kid and still enjoyed it. But there was something about it. It's like I think part of me, it's been lost or tainted by the comics I grew up with as they progressively got more adult, so-called adult, but they would, everybody trying to do their whole like Watchmen thing. And I think they lost they lost that heart of being able to do both, be okay for kids to read, but also okay for adults. And it's weird. I'd like to get that back, but I've been unable to. It's like, it's a little bit too much TNA here, a little bit too, or at the very least, a little bit too much fan service.
Yeah,
but
right. I think I could probably pull off saying JuanPool is teens and up. Like a teen could read JuanPool and think it's funny, and it wouldn't be inappropriate for a teen. Like all you see is his ass. After that, it would just be like, if the kid's mature enough, they're going to think it's funny. And these days, most 17-year-olds could probably read JuanPool and not be bothered by it.
Yeah, it's I would say like, yeah, right. It's in the teen, like 13 and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 13 and up. I mean, it's like, like, it isn't like it's gratuitous. It is like, you don't have like 5 or 6 pages worth of, Juan's ass hanging out, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, although I tried my best to cover it.
Yeah. Well, you could get creative with it if you had to, but the thing about it isn't offensive. It isn't, oh my God, you're exploiting this man's ass.
Yeah, plus it's like a fat guy's butt, so it's funny. Like it's a big fat guy naked in the middle of space. That's hilarious. Let's laugh.
Exactly. It's just so dumb. I love it. I love it.
But that's my favorite part of the whole book. The part where I go where he's in the source. It's my favorite part of the whole book. I don't know. I that was my favorite part of the whole book. To me, the story is there. And the Badger Bitch intro page. That one was fun. I laughed my ass off for the whole night after I finished it, and like I lettered it and everything. Like I sat there and I just kept opening up the file again and laughing. And like, yo, they're gonna love this one. They're gonna love this one. I'm fucking triggered, bro. It's like, dude, they're gonna love this one. They are gonna love this.
And that's the thing, like you love it too, though. But that's the important thing. Like, there's so many people. This is what I can't fucking stand about comic creators for the most part. Majority of them, not all, but a majority are miserable. They don't love what they do. I'm looking at this stuff like, fucking love this. I might not love it as much as I do. I'm working on it, but once it's done, I'm like, fuck yeah, I love that. And that's one of those things that's missing about a lot of people, because when I'm working on it, it's not finished. Yeah, you can love it, but it's like you're loving. It's like, oh wow, I love this half-finished building. It's like, give me a roof over my head, at least, motherfucker. Come on,
right?
And that's how I feel about these comics. And it's so disheartening to see people like you spend hours on that and you think it's miserable and it's shit. Like, and you're like, like I said, you're laughing your ass off, and that's what it's supposed to be like. You're supposed to enjoy that.
I think that's the only page I was like 100% confident on, and I was like, no, winning page. Damn, I love Badger Bitch too. I love her. Oh man, she's such a cool character to draw, because it's like drawing a flesh tone Hulk in like a leotard.
Oh God, it's horrifying. I love it, but it's horrifying, man. It's as they say, nightmare inducing.
She was so fun because it was like, no, push it, bro. Nope, that ain't enough. Push it. No, bro, push it. She's one of those characters that you're like, no, keep going. You didn't do enough. And I rarely ever get one of those characters that I look at and I'm like, no, I can get even worse. I can get really bad. And she is that character. And I love her as my villain. I love her as my debut villain. I think everyone's gonna really like that showdown in the end. And I hope I build up to it good.
I think you will. I think you have, like I say, you have a real good grasp on it. And when you're working on your artwork, I could tell you put that love in, because you love what you do, and that's clear. I mean, that's very clear from looking at your work. I mean, there's a lot of people that can do, oh wow, look at this great person that does a sketch. That's all they can do. They do sketch work, and that's it. Oh, they can do a single pose. You actually can visually tell a story and you could have your characters emote. I'm like, they see these people. It's like they have like, God knows, like, tens of thousands of followers on Instagram and Tumblr and all that shit. But that all they draw is pinups. I'm like, the fuck? Show me some story work. Show me some characters emoting. Like,
yeah,
shit. Show me a woman like crying in the rain.
It's way harder than I even thought. Sequential art is pretty hard, dude.
Yeah, it can be hard, but I find it a lot. For me, it's easier than drawing a pinup, because I do a pinup. I can do one if it's inspired by something else. But as far as a standard pinup by itself, like, I mean, that shit is tough. Like, that's what the swimsuit stuff we did. That shit was tough. If you'd have told me, fuck yeah, if you told me to draw them at the beach, like interacting, I would have had like one of them walk up and he walks up on like a fucking fish hook that's like buried in the sand, like I washed up on the shore. And he's like, motherfucker, you like doing that shit. That right there would be easier for me than to draw like, oh, here's a pinup. It's like that's why I consider myself more of a storyteller than a true like comics illustrator. Like, to me, illustrator means somebody that can take somebody else's words and interpret them, and it's that. Me, I could tell stories, but usually my own stories, and that's it. And or maybe something that somebody else inspired. But as far as like working from a script and like taking dictation from somebody else, and you need to draw this, you need to draw that. I'm like, I might draw that, and I might draw a little bit of this, but I'm not drawing all of it. So tough shit.
I'm more of the conceptualist type of creator. I'm awesome at coming up with ideas. It's executing them in humongous amounts where I get the setback. I'm pretty like something like JuanPool was just what I needed to really learn and grasp paneling pages. Because it's all concept. Because it's a parody. So I just get to make up his world as I go along. Because I want to keep it current enough that as you read, so I don't want to date it, but I want something that reflects the time that it's being made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because that's one of those things like you were talking about earlier, with your references. If you go too specific and like too narrow of a time, you kind of lose people. Unless that's supposed to be the joke. Like if it's supposed to be set in the 80s and you want to keep it in the 80s and not be too referential, like, like, oh, here's a picture of this person. Oh, they might become president one day or some joke like that. Or
right.
Like, it doesn't work.
So, for example, since I like to do a lot of Easter eggs and I work with a lot of people, for example, in Earth 121, there's not Trump, but there's Walmart. And people, you know what I mean? And, that lets me have fun on that end. And shout outs to Tim. He's awesome and I love him. And that's how I'd rather build the world. If I'm gonna do something that reflects the times, I don't want to straight date it with, being like, oh, remember this specific character. Like, no, you reflect the era. You let it be known that it's being created when it is, but you don't necessarily date it so that when people go back to read it, it still flows well.
And you're right, because that's when you're doing like a kind of timeless story, you have to kind of take yourself out of the time you're living in currently, because there are little things that influence this over here, that over here, like you're saying. And if you want your book to kind of stand the test of time, it's like, you have to work for it. And I think you're going to do fine. And
even then, I have to teeter a line, because one of the main driving points of JuanPool is being a parody of the current industry right now. But I want it to be a timeless read. So someone who knows what they're looking for in JuanPool understands I'm making fun of an industry. But hopefully, like, for example, part 1, someone can read it 10, 15 years from now, and it's still a fun story because they just see Badger Bitch as, like, a contradiction. And that's the point of the story. The heroes are bad now, and new heroes got to stop the old heroes. And, it's wonky adventures in this funny story world. But anybody that knows, oh, well, this grew from an era that creators would call this, that this was actually going on. You know what I mean? That this actually really was happening. Albeit he's exaggerating it, but I'm pretty confident in saying I hit every note of an SJW book. It started off with him being in front of his computer, talking about internet. Okay, I self-inserted on the first page, albeit a pop, a pop figure. I'm still on the first page, so I've self-inserted. He's an SJW. He's diverse. I hit all the notes. The quote-unquote hero of the story is really pissed off at the quote-unquote white guy in the story. I hope everyone, took note that I literally am just putting a mirror to SJW comic books and saying, this is what you're doing. This is what you're producing, except I'm making it funny for people to laugh at. But that's the sad state. I think JuanPool only works here and now. Because
I think it might be right, because it's like but strike while the iron's hot, though, right?
Why not? Hopefully, this origin leads me into cool adventures. Because I'm more than likely going to correct the problems with Earth 121. in the very next arc right after the origin, because I actually really already have like a goal plan on what I want to do with Juan. So I'm not flying blind really with him, uh, and I think that's why I'm now at a really comfortable point where I'm like, you know what, I might as well start production on part two, because you know I want to hurry up and get that origin out there, so that he's just bona fide.
You see, like when it comes to your work, when it comes to the art and the stories and everything like that, what do you find the most rewarding? Is it the finished product? Is it while you're working on it? Is it just the concept? Like, you seem like you have you love working with the ideas, like bringing that kernel of an idea to life. So, like, what's the most like rewarding for you? What's the most fun?
Um, uh, I like when someone says something like, "You've inspired me to start drawing again." I think that's my favorite part.
That's great, man.
It makes it worth it. Uh, uh, it that's awesome. That's the childhood dream come true. You really think it's making the comic book, publishing it, having people see it, but you realize the boyhood dream is it came to fruition when someone says, "I just read your book and it's so good and you've inspired me and I want to start working on my stuff." That's it. That's it. That humbles you. That's why I immediately apologize for my misconduct and how I misspoke about how I felt my sales were. Uh, and it was a humbling moment when you remember that uh, it's not supposed to be for the money. You do it because you love it. You do it because people love it.
Though the
That's
money
the most
helps,
satisfying. The money helps.
the money helps.
I want to brag. JuanPool actually helped me fix my car, and he bought my daughter presents for her birthday.
And so that's all that matters right there. But I see. I
know?
totally get where you're coming from about like. But I've coming from from my point of view, I did not see anything wrong with what you did, and it's not because I consider you a friend and I like you as a person, but because I understand that frustration, and there's people that have it ingrained in their head to the point like, oh, digital sucks, digital doesn't matter. It's like they've had that ingrained into their head, and it's like you have to understand not everyone has a massive audience or a big coffers where they can afford to print a book physically and then
Yeah.
store the book and then ship the book. That digital is a alternative. Is it a solution 100%? No, but it is a way. If you actually do, like, I support comics, I love comics, oh, here's a comic, well, it's not the one I'm looking for. It's that kind of shit. It's like you offer something, and I've seen this time and time again, and I guarantee I'll see it more and more often. And there are alternatives, and I look at it this way, like, hashtag Troy did nothing wrong. I look at it that way, but
Yeah, I mean, me, it's just it's more on how I was raised. Uh, I know my father would pull my ear and pull me aside and say, "Go out there and apologize to those people." Uh, you know what I mean? He's old now and he's kind of sick, so like he just kind of doesn't even know my life anymore. But I always stop and think of, uh, would I be proud to go tell my father I just did this? And that was in that moment I said absolutely not. And I know he'd give me I'm not angry you said that to those people. I'm disappointed. Uh, and I immediately excused my behavior because I don't know, I was just raised better than that. That's not how you act. Even if that's how you feel for real, that's not how you act. There's a difference between inside thought and outside thought. And as a person, as a man, I always try to hold myself up to a really high standard, especially because I'm a father to a daughter. So I want her to have a good standard of man to look for. So I always try to be as upstanding and honorable as possible. But it's hard because I'm a meathead and I'm usually in a pissed off mood. But I try. I do try. And I at least acknowledge the fact that I easily lose my temper. I easily lose my temper and I run my mouth. That's why I just stay away from everything, especially these days where I'm kind of going through it a little bit. And I just kind of want to persevere, show my results, and retreat back. Plus, I'm working full time again because I just kind of want to get myself out of like hardships, and the quickest way is long hours in the tattoo shop. But I've gotten a whole bunch of new equipment, so like the stuff I'm pumping out is really cool. So I'm having fun again in my career. So at least there's that.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, at the end of the day, like the way you're approaching it, I think you're doing a great job. And I really think that your future is going to be bright, man. If it's already going. I love what you're producing, art wise as well as comic wise, and so I don't think there's going to be any problems with that. I'm just glad that you are, just sticking to it, and it's not letting not letting the as say that the demons get to you and drag you down, and the drama
Yeah,
demons, and just keep you down.
it is what. Luckily for me, I'm very secure in owning what I did wrong and just keep walking on. Like, all right, I fucked up. You can either hold it against me or like I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. But I'm just probably gonna keep doing my thing. And I think when you accept your mistakes and you're humble about it, people accept it. All right, yeah, he fucked up. Just let him go do his thing again. And I think that's how you get out of like doing big faux pas. Like you have to go out and own it, and not a couple days later. Oh, I've reflected and I thought about. Nah, man, go back out there and been like, yo, you know what? I was just a fucking little dickhead. My bad. Like y'all didn't deserve for me to be a little dickhead because I have problems in my life, and I'm the type of person that doesn't like to talk about it because it's my business. You know what I mean? You don't
Yeah,
take that out on like, and that's pretty much where I was coming from too. Like most of my frustration was I'm just going through it in life. You know, uh, probably if things were better, it would have been more of a humble thing. But I was just in one of those places where, God, I needed that, and I myself built up the delusion of, bro, I'm gonna come out running, and I set myself up when I already knew going into it what my the acceptable goal should be. Um, and that's all. That's why I just was like, yo, my bad. Um, and now I just gone back to a different strategy on how I put my art out and how we share my art, and just I'm just straight up putting out JuanPool. Doing a lot of collaboration work with people. Uh, I really want to branch out and be able to work with as many people as possible.
hmm
Um, because I just want to be able to take every opportunity without having to worry about, well, will I piss off everybody in a community? You know, I
yeah,
just want to. At this point, I want to get JuanPool going because there's a lesson that I learned. You can't just market to one group of people. You have to mass put yourself out there. I mean, that's why I even had fun that week of Z-Raw. I got a lot of great followers off of that one. Because you start to show too, like, no, I'm not the angry bigot that people paint me to be. I'm actually very open minded and accepting. It's just I require good art and good writing for characters. That's all. That's all. I would back a trans character if you write it in the way that whatever bad happened to them made me cry a little bit on the inside because I'm like, oh man, no, that's my guy, you know.
yeah. It's
But
well, when it comes down, like I know we've talked about this before, but you know, like you said, any artists want to talk to you, your DMs are open, you're willing to talk art, but or anything else like any like warnings, any like hey, you might want to stay away from this kind of thing, like or behaviors, because I've noticed a lot of people, it's like instead of focusing on like creating. That like actually like, it depends on like like they don't really know what they want to do. They want to draw, but they don't know like what they want to do. Like, do you want to just do pinups? Do you want to do covers? Do you want to do storytelling? Like I tell them, find out what like find what you want to do. Like realize what you want to do. Like, do you have any like advice, words of wisdom?
words of wisdom. Refine what you want to do. If you want to make a comic, write the story to it. Build a character. commission an artist to make the concepts. Take it from there. You know, it's easier to get someone to panel your book if you just provided them with every character sheet. You know what I mean? Different locations with a booming bit of a world that he's like, oh, this is gonna be cake. I'm gonna fly through this. Be willing to work with someone's schedule. Be understanding, but don't just let them walk all over you. You know, always make sure you check in with an artist, but that doesn't mean every day you ask them, how's it going? That's kind of aggravating. And sometimes just, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know what's good advice to give somebody. What's good advice, Larry?
Like I say, like, you know,
vitamins and say your prayers.
Take your vitamins. Take your prayers. Say your vitamins.
Let's get it going.
Don't get caught. Don't get caught on video saying certain things.
Yeah. Oh. Actually, thank you. That is some. If you want to be taken legitimate, there has to be a point where you stop the shit posting and start creating. Because if your timeline is 80% shit posts, 20% this is what I'm doing, you know, it's hard to sell that to somebody you want to work with. You know what I mean? You have to put your love into your craft. At least that's what helped me. As soon as I stopped being a shit poster and started actually accepting that, all right, I'm creating now, even something like Twitter became different to me. Which is, it's weird. Like, from one day to the next, you're like, oh shit, people are treating me like a pro. Like, oh shit, people are actually like tagging me in the same tags as some of the really huge big names. And I'm always proud to say that I'm the only one that'll answer back.
Oh God, that's another thing. It's like there's so many people. They're, you know, professional, but they act nothing like it. Or there's people that become professional. Like, they're like, before they become pros, they're like, pros need to act better towards their fans and readers and customers. Da, 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 da. And when they become that, they're just the same assholes as everybody else. It's like, I don't want to be that guy. I mean,
like, don't get me wrong. I could imagine, because I can say off of confirmation, you only get 99 notifications, and then everything else is gone. So I will concede, if you're that big of a name, it's hard to catch everything.
No, I'm saying, like, go through their timeline and all you see is them replying to people, like, talking shit to them. And that's like the main one. That's a big thing. Like, so where you're actually conversing with someone. Like, if somebody tweets at me like a question or like back and forth, I'll back and forth with somebody. I used to follow a lot more people, like, just willy nilly, until I start reading through the timelines. Like, yeah, I don't think me and this person. Like, I'd either eventually unfollow them or mute them, and I really don't want to do that because it'd be pointless. Like, why follow them in the first place if you're going to mute them? But
yeah,
there are people like if I'll be civil towards people. I have no problem talking. If somebody asks me a question, I can try to answer with back and forth. Like, I mean, I was talking about this or that, like Wolverine, or, you know, creating comics, like what you expect from your own comics, stuff like that. Doesn't matter. Like, I'm like, I ain't nothing special. Like, you know, we're all made of flesh and blood. We all got to die sometime. This is the way the world is. And there are people.
Just a meathead.
Exactly. I'm a hunk of meat that has electricity running it around. I have memories that are implanted on the equivalent of butter with blood vessels. That's your brain. It's butter with blood vessels. It's very like the Amish butter. Fact, and all it takes is.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. It's just like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, we're all the same when we boil it down. And I try not to treat nobody any different unless they deserve it. Unless they treat me disrespectfully, I try not to treat them disrespectfully. I try not to, but I will. I'm not gonna. I don't always take the high ground. I can't. I've tried, but I'm human. I have I have faults.
I think I know what that feels like, and I'm very sad to report. I know when I'm about to chug a glass of Kool-Aid, and everything says don't drink the Kool-Aid, and I say, fuck that, I love how Kool-Aid tastes, and I chug the whole thing down. And I just get into it, and like every so often, it just goes down. But I I don't get that much these days. I only engage my fans and my audience and my friends. Literally just anything I'm tagged in a notification. That's where you're gonna see me every so often. If I'm bored and I got nothing to do, I flip through to see all the new tweets, and you know, that's when they'll get you, man. That's when you're like, oh, what flavor of Kool-Aid is this? And you go ahead and you dip your finger in, you taste it, and you're like, fruit punch, my favorite. Let's go.
But you're right. I mean, it's like it's so tempting to see that stuff, and like I try to stay out of it. I try my best, and like 9 times out of 10, I avoid it. But that one time, that's all it takes. It's like, and no part of me knows, like, Larry, you get into this, you're going to be, instead of working on your comic and working on commissions and doing this, doing stuff that you need and want to do, you're going to be doing this bullshit over here, and walk right into it.
I mean, too, for me personally, it's like I kind of have no more need for it because it already brought me to the point that I get to make JuanPool. So it's counterproductive to go back to complaining about things like that. But I really do think there still is a place for it in a way. I don't know. You always still need to call attention to all the stupid shit. It's just me personally. Once again, I think I'm better suited for everybody just putting my creation out there.
And that's the best thing to do for everybody, because you're not only helping yourself, you're putting more content out there. You're showing people it's put up or shut up. It's not just talk about, oh, I want to do a comic, I want to do this, I want to do that. Just do it. Don't talk about it. Get it done. Do it. Put the nose to the grindstone. Bust your ass at learning figure work and storytelling. If you have to use, like, oh wow, I don't really know how to tell a story that well, go look at the old comics that inspired you. You know what? Crib from some of it. You don't have to rip things whole cloth, but crib some of the storytelling techniques, the page layouts, the paneling, whatever, the figure work. If you have to crib some of it or be inspired by it,
Yeah.
you get your feet. Do it. If Liefeld could do that, he ripping people off. When he ripped off New Teen Titans, I think it was issue 39. It's the cover. It's mostly white. It has Dick Grayson and Wally West walking away from camera with their uniforms on the ground. Yeah. He used the first like 4 or 5 pages for that for X-Force #1. It's just like there's no shame. But like if he can do that, and like you say it's homage, but it doesn't. I mean, bullshit. But that kind of stuff. If he can do that, and people like Greg Land, going in like pornography, porno mags, like tracing women's faces and other stuff like that, and the other artists where they just use nothing but photo reference for everything they do. They're, like I said, in the end, there really isn't no wrong way to make comics. There are poor choices, but there, to me, it's like, as long as you're making it, you're doing it. But
I use a lot of different methods. So there's times I'll reference a photo. So there's times I'll use a 3D model. I just think there's a lot of tools. I wouldn't ever say stick to one thing or your comic will look bland. But another great piece of advice I was given was, yo, get that shit out. If you're trying to draw somebody shooting with a submachine gun and you just fucking can't because you suck at doing guns and you've never done that kind of scene, my name, just find a picture and reference it, for the love of God. Just learn how to not trace line for line. Take the base, take the skeleton, flesh from that. It's going to look good.
You like the first mentioning that.
Don't take a page out of a comic book and trace it. Don't do that. But if you have to go find a photo of some dude holding his gun, shooting it, by all means, do it. If you need to make a 3D model to catch the very angle you want, let's say you have a scene where your hero is flying off into the horizon and there's a city behind them, and you're like, yo, I can't get that dynamic view. Go get a 3D model. They help. Whatever you got to do, make your comic great. That's my advice, too. Make your comic good. Dude, if you don't know how to draw cars and you're going through a busy freaking highway chase scene, you better go reference some car pictures.
Yeah. You better not joke around with that. Yeah.
I know that it sounds funny, but it's at the end, especially if you want it to look good. There's a plethora of shitty looking high grade, high industry comic books. I'm not even talking about indies. I'm talking about like the big twos with awful shitty art that everyone roasts every day. Rise above. Use the techniques, apply them well, repurpose everything, make it your own, and pump out some good shit. Period.
That's the thing that's missing, because a lot of people, when they're doing that kind of stuff, like I think honestly, a lot of people, they give up too easily. And part of me, I'm torn, because I'm like, there's people like, if they're working on, if they want to become better artists or become artists in general, they're learning to draw. And I know Braylon's been, busting his ass with artwork, and I'm like, dude, just keep going, you got this, just go. And then there's part of me like, part of me is like, I feel like Louis Gossett Jr. and Officer and a Gentleman. I just want to make people want to quit. They're working on art, and I'm like, this sucks. Like, give up, go away. And it's like
classic movies and cartoons from the past with beautiful women were produced by filming the woman doing the exact action, giving the frame by frame to the artist, and he traced it out and turned it into a cartoon.
Yeah, rotoscoping.
So what? You know? And it's like, if you do what you got to do. Whatever you're going to fucking make that product look great and people are going to buy it, do what you got to do besides plagiarize. That's all I ask. Don't plagiarize, because that's shitty. Especially if you're asking money for it.
Yeah.
If you're going to put a price tag on it, absolutely do not. I do not condone that.
Yeah, if you're going to slap a price tag on it, don't half-ass that stuff. Don't be ripping that off of somebody else. Don't be, oh wow, like you saw this in a movie and you just copied it from a movie and stuff like that. Like if you mentioned the machine gun thing, and the first thing that popped in my head is like, I'd use as inspiration that scene from Ghost in the Shell, the animated movie, not the live action one. Dear God, I have to differentiate that. But there, the guy with the like the Uzi, he's like firing the machine gun. Like I would add to it. I would expand upon that. I would not just be that image, but something inspired by that. But you're right, like, go above and beyond. You don't have to just, you don't just have to, I'll just copy this and end of the day. But I think some people, if they're so soft that they are, like, oh, I want to give up and I want to do this, well, give up then. If that's your attitude, just give up. You're not going to make it. It's like, I've had people tell me I'm shit and like I should just give up as well. And I'm like, fuck you, I keep on doing my thing. I don't look to them like, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm like, no, fuck them. I kept doing it, and in spite of them. So it's like, you got to do it you have to want to do it. You can't be led by the nose. It's the same idea. It's like, I think that's why so many bad artists are like working at Marvel. It's just like this, you're a great artist. Yeah, you are too. Like that kind of stuff. It's like they're patting each other on the back. I'm like, dear God, this stuff sucks.
Even worse. I think they have confidence because of that. But I think they're working there because Marvel is slave laboring them, which in a way triggers me, because I don't believe in underpaying an artist, even if they're a piece of shit person.
Yeah.
It's like they're getting bad art because they're not willing to pay for good art. Like you gotta supply whoever's making people buy that book. You gotta give them a good living.
Well, see, part of me, like, I agree on that, but then I disagree with the point where there may be like an alternative idea. That is a possibility, but the other thing is Marvel will have these editors go and like talent scouting, and I've talked to a couple people that have been, participated in one of their talent scout, and I've seen their work, and I've seen their sequential work, and I've seen what they can do, and I'm like, something ain't right here. But then if you go and look into it, a lot of these artists are friends of friends and stuff like that. So I'm thinking the reason they have these gigs, one person gets in, one mediocre artist gets in, and then they get everybody else that kind of going along the same wavelength. They're very similar. Nobody's rocking the boat. They're all in the same mindset. They're all shopping at the Whole Foods and this and that, that kind of stuff. And to the point where it's kind of an echo chamber. And it ain't nothing new, but it's just like, if you stack it with mediocre and poor artists, where it's like that kind of communism of art, nothing looks great, nothing looks, nothing's better than anything else. This isn't the same Marvel where you had, John Byrne and Art Adams, and you had, Oh God, Dave Cockrum, and you had, John Buscema and Mike Zeck. This isn't the same Marvel that had Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Willis Portacio, uh, Todd McFarlane. This isn't the same Marvel that had Joe Mad, Carlos Pacheco, and oh dear God, like just these guys. I mean, Mark Texeira and all this stuff. This is the Marvel of Chris Anka and Yildiray Cinar. Like, oh, he's a great art. Like, he's mediocre. There's nothing about his art. It's like it's serviceable. It's not even as much as I enjoy Sal Buscema's art. He's a workman artist. That Yildiray Cinar is the same way. These guys, they have great Instagrams. That don't make a shit bit of difference when you can't draw a compelling story. When your artwork, like you could spend as much time on your Instagram and do your sketches, but when your sequential artwork sucks, that's not good. That you're doing comic books. You're not doing pinup books. Sequential storytelling is a must, and a lot of these people, they can't do it. They can't hack it.
It's tough. It's tough to draw a visual story. The person should be able to follow the story without the speech bubbles. Not necessarily know exactly what's going on, but they should be able to follow and be like, all right, so this is happening. All right, and this is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how you get great sequential art. It has to tell a story before you're putting the story in there, so that the eye just follows it naturally, and then having the actual words in there completes it. Because then they do know what's going on.
See, that's what I do. That's exactly what I do. Because when I do stories, like, oh, you write from script, I'm like, no, I do it visually. So you mean like storyboards? I'm like, not really. Storyboards have the same like panel. It's like the same because it's like this, widescreen. It's like widescreen. This is button image into a bigger image, into like 2 or 3 panels of showing progression, and then it's like a silent story. It's like a silent film where. Yeah, that's how I do it.
That's really cool.
It's like, I mean, I could actually, I've actually, if you look at like Neon Trash, if you look at that story,
great
the way it's told,
great story too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Very kind of you, sir. But yeah, with the way that's told, and I try to tell it visually and like to say, like, well, I admit that works all the time. It works more often than not. It's like 90% of the time I'm extremely satisfied with the visual storytelling. You can infer a lot. It's like watching a good storyteller, like same thing with, the visual medium of comics or even movies for that matter. You could tell a story silently and you get most of it across. You won't get all the nuances, but you get most of it across. And I think that's more important than like when you have like walls of text or nothing but talking heads. Like if you see a long panel where you see like a head face or a woman scowling, and then you see the next panel like a woman running, and you see like the kind of the speed lines, kind of Dragon Ball Z kind of style, and you see like boom, 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 like you could tell that long line like where word balloons would be. Okay, she's telling this person off, like she's giving them the business, and then you see the running, and like okay, so she's gives somebody the business, and then she's running at them. She's like, oh shit, you just did not do that right here and now. And then there you go. And then that right there, any person with half a brain without the ability to detect visual storytelling, because there's a lot of people, they need to be handheld. Like they're, and I'll admit, I mean, that's a shame. And I mean, I wish more people would be more, I guess, say outgoing with their stories and like, not just, oh, you got to, word balloon. It's like, it's, you got text with a little bit of art instead of art with some text, so it's kind of unfortunate, but that's how it is a lot of times.
I know when I was getting them pages set, I tried to always keep in mind where the speech bubbles were going to be, because I learned in the first 5 pages, oh, you better fucking plan ahead. But then I started relying on other older techniques, and I think that's another reason people liked it visually. I started drawing from the old school way of doing things. I used a lot of big, huge onomatopoeia. I threw speed lines in. I threw distant lines in. there's ways to draw things in a comic book that are different than a graphic novel. You know, if that makes sense. A
Exactly.
comic
Yeah,
book
there's a lot that makes
relies
sense to
on,
that.
you know, certain visual cues. Like when like if someone's head is turning really fast, you want to put that speed exchange. You want to put both those faces on the same body at the same time with, you know, some lines moving it across. So, you know, they just go, what the fuck? Um, and the same thing with everything you put per panel. And I think that's everybody has to get their own style and blend on how they put it together. And I think that was key in helping me just relax and finish making JuanPool, where I remembered uh, people came to read my book, so I better make it look like I did it, and not like I just looked at a bunch of other things and just let it influence me. I tried to make sure that every page had a different panel layout. That was important to me too for some reason. I never wanted to have the same layout on any two page. And I did a lot of breaking out of the panel as far as the artwork and the speech bubbles, which, you know, everybody these days just tries to squeeze it in the box. It's like, you can go ahead and put that speech box like outside, like on the corner. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool.
I keep mine tucked in. That's my thing. I keep my panel the word balloons tucked in because if I'll leave it this way. If I'm gonna start busting them out, I want to make it special. I don't want to overdo it sometimes because like
all right. See,
that's the way I approach it. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of people say like, oh, you can't do it. It's the same people.
There's no wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like me and Daniel Velez, creator of Red, you know, Cyberpunk, you know, Fairy Tale.
Very talented.
Yeah, I love it. I love his work. I love because I finally got his comic. I talk about, oh, yeah, I'll get that comic. And he finally got the whole PayPal thing. I got it, and I was working on art and commissions and this. I was like, dude, I'll get around to it. I swear I'll get around to it. And I read it and loved it. But like we're talking, we're talking about how there are so many people they've been, you know, because of, you know, people online, people in comics and not seeing on a regular basis have stripped out the use of speed lines and like that whip motion where they would draw, like, you know, you draw the, you know, person's head turning with the line, the vertical line showing where the head was, and then that you know, kind of the swoosh, like the Nike swoosh showing where the head is turning to. That's missing from comics for the most part, because now it's like they'll draw the head turning over 5 different panels, and like, you could have done that in one. You could have done it in one and saved the reader the time and not wasted multiple pages and multiple panels.
I think it's done on purpose, bro. They're trying to stretch out stories.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I was afraid I squeezed too much story into one. I had to finally cut it off. And I'm just gonna have to figure a way to squeeze it into two.
Well, it's a problem because a lot of it, I think, when you're reading comics, especially newer comics, you get a little lost. You don't get. It's not 100%. I look at it. Okay, the newer comics, you get lost when you try to incorporate. Like, you have this mental image of like, okay, what you want to put on the page, but if you're influenced too much by the modern comics where everything's so decompressed and stretched out and just watered down, where a modern comic would be equivalent of a third, like a third of an old school comic, where they would compress so much in there and like it wouldn't feel too compact, but it was just the way they did it. And it's missing today. It's art form to be able to tell those kind of stories. I'd love to get back to something like that, though. It's just, you know, like I kind of want to do both. I mean, I do think there is room for both, but there's so many books that are just, they feel so needlessly decompressed.
Me, personally, my theory is, I subscribe to a good comic book series. You can just jump into it. Like, you don't necessarily have to read back to be able to go forth. It's good to go and read back, and you will eventually if you start liking it. But like, a book should be a complete story within an arc of a story. So you should get the satisfaction of, you know, beginning mid, climax, conclusion. Even though it's going into another story that's going to do the same, and altogether they combine into a story. That's at least what I try to do with JuanPool, give one whole complete story that then leads into a whole nother complete story, and then book by book it becomes a greater story together. That's how I like to read, so that's what I gave out. Like a full complete, like I hope someone to be able to just jump in, get two because they saw it, and then be like, oh, that's awesome, how did it start? And then go back and get one.
See, and that's another thing that's missing. Like, so many books are not self-contained anymore, where you could tell a continuing story. You could, have threads going to and from and all that. But in so many books, like, you have to have read this and know about this one to get what's going on here. It's like, it's almost insulting to the point where it punishes you if you haven't spent, so much money and time investing in the story. Or where I could pick up. Like, I remember picking up a couple weeks back at my comic shop, or their back issue, I picked up an old Uncanny X-Men issue I'd never read before. It was, of course, a Claremont issue. I picked it up, and I had I knew what era this was. This was in the Outback era when the X-Men were in Australia, and they had Gateway, and they had Madripoor, and all that stuff. But it was just a one-off issue that dealt with some stuff going on, and it was no problem getting into it. It was a done in one story. It wasn't a part of this, the world's going to end, we have to solve this and that. And that's the problem with a lot of books these days. Like, they punish you for not getting into it, from day one. Where instead of the whole every issue somebody's first concept, which used to be the rule of the roost, they didn't mess around. Like, they wanted people to be able to get into a book, enjoy that book, but hopefully go back and look for more, or go continue on reading that comic and not feel, all right, I'm totally lost here. I'll just get it down the line, or not get it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot that could be said about comics these days. And but at least we live in a time where there's a lot of people with a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, there's a lot of good. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I got some good ideas brewing. Like, I kind of want my next comic to be a superhero story, and I got some ideas for it. And I've been watching a lot of. I didn't watch it growing up. I knew of it, never watched it because I heard how just brutal and hardcore it was. ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling used to be Eastern Championship Wrestling. And that's where Raven and them came from. Raven went over to WCW, and a lot of these people went to WWF or WWE. And I've been going back and looking at a lot of this stuff. Like, Raven broke a guy's neck. Not Raven. I'm sorry. Damn it. What was his name? One of the guys broke the guy's neck. Raven crucified the Sandman. Strung him up against the ring, and he had a crown of barbed wire as thorns. Really horrifying stuff, but true villainy. And this is the kind of stuff I'm like, I'd love to see make a comeback. And I've been jotting down little notes here and there, and have these kind of things. But it is one of those. There's something about heroes versus villains that you don't get in the Marvel movies, you don't get in the DC stuff. It's usually talking, it's like light comedy. A lot of that stuff's light comedy. And that's the problem. You don't get the last superhero movie, and I'm going to get shit for this, actually had a hero versus a villain, and the villain was a good villain. And that was Man of Steel. And I know people give me shit for it, but Zod in that is like, you grew up on a farm. I was made for war. I'm gonna fuck you up. And he's killing people. He don't give a shit. Now, granted, Clark was not. He was just a dude who helped people who happened to have a suit. He didn't really know how to use his powers properly. Yes, he could have done better, but he didn't. But
nope.
I still love that movie. I love it. He's a guy that wanted to help. It's like, so I totally get that stuff. I defend that movie. I love it. But you need good villains. You need a villain that you like, you son of a bitch. Hope you get your comeuppance soon. Like that kind of stuff. You want to see that happen. When's the last time you wanted that to happen to Dr. Doom or Magneto or Lex Luthor for that matter? It's like, oh, Lex Luthor had an abusive father, and
Yeah, you're too busy feeling sorry for them because they're going through some shit. Yeah, because at that point they're written more sympathetic than the hero, and you're like, well, I care about you more now than this guy. I'm serious. That's how I feel, at least these days. The villains are starting to become more sympathetic than the heroes. The heroes are jerks. They're all self-righteous, pretentious assholes. Um, this poor villain, like his father abused him. Like this poor guy, let's give him a hug. That's why he's being evil. That's what I feel about modern villains. They deconstructed both sides way too much. Too much. They've almost switched sides. That's something that I might even parody myself. You know how villains and heroes have changed. I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel that the modern hero is handed a lot, whereas the classic hero had to fucking drag himself through dirt for it.
Yeah, that's what's missing.
Every great hero, every great book, for the most part, the hero is hated for some time. They fucked up big. You know, you can name an example in just about every book where the hero just fucked up big, and they had to rebuild. And I don't mean the hero was deconstructed. I mean they fucked up because they needed to do something for the betterment, and it pissed people off or something like that. You don't get that anymore. I get the feeling that like it's just the hero's gonna come in, be awesome, especially if they're like a woman, and that's it. Yay me. Let's go. Let's do this. Yay me.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's like I'm looking at like when you look at the characters, like when you look at the past and villains, like when you think of good villains, there are so many of them. Like if you actually think about them, they're not that good of a villain. They're used and they're like the only time actually, in the last time I actually read it was not about a couple weeks back. It was a what if story, so it doesn't even count. It's a what if, but you know, Magneto lets hit these. There was a mutant faction on Avalon. It's like, you know, what if Magneto ruled all mutants? And he's like, two factions on Avalon. He's like kind of ineffectual leader. One wants to take over the Earth. One wants to leave the Sol system for a different solar system. They wanted to go get out of here and just go to another, you know, planet system and rule there instead of having to deal with the humans.
Yeah, I'm done with this.
And so like that, I totally get where that's actually really cool. Like Magneto's like, I'm here to free them. I'm not here to control them. I was here to free them from human oppression. I did that. What do I do next? So two characters, Rusty and Skids, this husband and wife, they have a daughter or have a child. I think it's a daughter. And the scanner says like, oh, this kid's going to be an ultra level mutant. It's going to be able to choose its mutation at will. It's like how mutants are above humans. It's going to be above mutants. It's going to be that powerful. It's going to be like a god. And so all these two warring factions unite and they kill the child. They murder an infant, a newborn. And then I was like, Jesus Christ. And they unite and they're like, okay, from now on, we're going to like control births. We aren't going to let anybody just have kids. They're going to have to, go through like, screening processes, make sure they're not going to have an ultra level kid and all this and that. Then at the end of the book, it's revealed that the scanner that said this kid was going to be ultra level, mutant, the scanner lied. Magneto fucked with it with his powers. And Colossus found this out, and then Colossus, Beast, Rusty, and Skids leave. The child is dead. It's not fake. They killed this child. Magneto did this to unite the two warring factions. He's like, I'll do anything for my people. And it turns out the baby was born human, baseline human. So he killed an innocent child just to unite the mutants. I was like, holy fuck. Now that's a villain right there. Yep. That is a fucking villain. But they would never do that in the mainline continuity because it'd be like irredeemable because he killed a child. So if they did that, that's a villain. That's like he is, but it's like he's going full tilt. He isn't this, well, keeping him in the gray area. He's bad, but we understand why he's bad. He just murdered a human child and use the same fear that mutants give upon human, that kind of shit. So it's like the humans are right. So like that kind of thing. It's great storytelling, but too bad it doesn't really count because it's a what if story.
Yeah, I like what ifs though. sometimes it's a good way to freshen it. I know you didn't read it, but that's kind of what I got from White Knight.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a good refresher. Like, oh wait, yeah, this is like a different version of a good Batman story. And I don't know, I liked it. I did like it. I like it. I picked up the whole series. Quite enjoyed it. And I think mostly because I think you kind of tipped on it a little earlier about sometimes the overuse of one villain can get you. You know, Joker's done a lot in the last couple decades. So I think that like palate cleanse of seeing a whole different plan of action from him is what drew me to something like White Knight. Because it was just good to see a different scenario to the Joker.
And that's one of the things, like actually taking something a bit different and kind of twisting it on its head.
Yeah.
And that's all you got to do sometimes, but then there's other times you really got to work for it. And when you're creating characters whole cloth, like, what do you do? Like, there's some people, it's like, oh, that's clearly that villain. It's just a, pastiche. It's like, okay, that's all you're really doing. You're just copying that. But, creating good villains, to make, you want them hateable. You want to see the hero defeat them, but you can't make the villains just like slapstick and, like, you got to make them a threat. You need to make them a credible threat. You need make them creepy, make them scary, make them, you're angry at them. It's like, how dare this person win? This doesn't work. This shouldn't work that way.
Yeah.
That's what's missing about a lot of these stories. Is like, I think, it's like, oh, they just had a bad childhood and this and that. It's like that doesn't matter. Like, that's no excuse. I mean, like, it's, it was one of those things. It's like, this is fiction. You control this world. You're the god of this world. You can control everything, every aspect. This is a town that never has a rainy day, but grass still stays green. That kind of shit. It's a beautiful place to live. There's low crime because the hero protects the day, but the hero takes the day off. Oh my God, the crime comes out of the woodwork. They crawl out of the sewers like it's the Beat It music video. Come out of the manhole covers. And they got the knives and the chains. They're dancing down the streets and all that. But it's something missing when you, like I said, you have to put effort. You can't just focus on your heroes. You got to have good villains too. And like, I don't mind the like the evil mirror, kind of like the evil twin thing. It's like the exact opposite of the hero. I love that stuff. I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah. I don't think I can do that with JuanPool. I don't know how they pull that off.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it doesn't work for everyone. It's like I go back to like the evil Superman from Superman 3, where he's like drinking and flipping tankers over. It's dumb and fun, but it's also, when you think about it, it's kind of scary because this is a dude with all that power. Yeah, he's just being a prick right now, but he could easily be like murdering people left and right. I mean, there's like not much stopping him. But I think that's missing. I think like the evil, like the evil version of JuanPool. I mean, it would not be pretty. He'd be a gay basher. It
would be Chadpool. It would be Chadpool.
Chadpool. Oh God. Oh.
Chadpool.
He'd be skinny and carry a baseball bat. He'd be skinny, carry a baseball bat, and like attack. Attack people for no good reason. He'd just be that.
Right. He'd run around warning about like he'd be an alt-writer. Basically, that's the opposite of JuanPool.
Loop one.
I don't know if I can make him lovable.
Tim Morris in the chat. Loop one. That's what his name would be. LOOP. Loop one. From the evil mirror universe, Loop one.
Like, oh man, wait, wait, he already has a mustache.
Yep, he has a goatee now. He has a goatee.
He has the full goatee.
He's a full goatee. No, and he's clean. He's clean shaven except for the goatee. It's like,
I think I might have to make him clean shaven to make him the opposite.
Oh yeah, get rid of the mustache.
There may not be someone that looks like JuanPool with a goatee. There may.
Oh, okay. I think you should do this, man. I really think you should.
Oh man,
Now, at least you have the option. At least the option exists.
he's like Bizarro Juan.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh God.
Oh, make him big and fat, and he's like, "I'm not taking any of your crap, JuanPool." Oh yeah, that'll be great. I'll just have, oh man, totally a bro, crushes a beer can on his head, throws it at Juan. But nah, that's too easy. I need better. I gotta find like, how do I make a Bizarro Juan?
You have to be skinny, and he would shame people for their bodies. It's like you cow looking like a what was her name? The reporter, the news reporter. Oh hell, the kind of your April O'Neil to your universe.
Oh my Jackie Dela Cruz.
Jackie Dela Cruz. He's like calling her a cow, like that kind of thing. It's like, you need to lose weight.
Lose some weight, Jackie.
He needs skinny women. He needs skinny, really skinny women. He's like, you people when you're thick make me sick.
Dick. Yep. Oh,
he hates Mexican food and only eats kale.
Oh. Well, no, Juan's a vegan.
Oh, so he would eat steaks. Yeah, he would eat steaks raw.
Somehow keep his figure. He'd be one of those assholes.
Oh God, he has like high metabolism. Oh
yes,
God, I hate people like that. My metabolism is slower than the Ice Age.
It really depends on what time of year. I find in the summer my metabolism kicks up, but I think it's because it gets busier at work, and moving around more and doing my thing
and sweating more.
Yeah, and sweating more. When I do put on weight, it's almost always exclusively in the winter.
Yeah, it's just
Plus, there's a lot of good things to eat as of Halloween, all the way to New Year's. Because Halloween, personally as a dad, I'm gonna have to eat 75% of what this kid gets because there's no way we're gonna give her that much candy. So it's actually not as fun as you think because you're like, it's either throw away all this perfectly good candy or I'm gonna have to eat it all. And I'm like in my late 30s, and I don't do so good if I have more than a couple. Like
I can't eat that. I'd have to be like, you know what? It's a waste to throw it out. Maybe find some homeless man to give it to.
And then Thanksgiving, there's good eatings there. Forget about all the cookies and stuff you get around Christmas time.
Oh God,
especially in New England, guy. Everywhere you go, there's cookies and stuff.
Oh, one of those like really nice homemade brownies with peanuts and stuff. Oh God.
Oh, so
almonds. Like if you go to splurge, get some almonds or some macadamia nuts. I've had oh my God, it's some good stuff. Like a nice hot brownies with some like cool milk. Oh, I love it. I'm a sucker for that stuff.
Plus, we got a lot of good like candies and sweets and confections here in New England, I feel. So it's easy to get fat in the holidays around here.
Same here. I mean, you get people just like handy it. Oh, here's this, here's that. I'm like, oh, please, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh man.
Like I'll have to refuse. It's tough, man. It's tough to refuse because you feel like a cad for refusing somebody's food. Like, I appreciate it. It's like I'm not interested. Thank you.
I'm already full. I've been eating all day.
Yeah, I got to stop myself. It's like once you start, you can't stop. A lot of the time, it's like, oh, come on, don't do this to me.
Now I'm all hungry for goodies. Now I'm like, that's the one thing I do look forward to in the holidays. Like, there's gonna be some good goodies.
But well, I mean, and hopefully, and hopefully this, by this winter, with any luck, maybe maybe issue 3.
Honestly, the reason my production is slow now is because it's summer and there's a lot of tattoos to do, and this is the time of year where I amass my money and put it away for the winter, where it slows down. When everybody met me, when I joined Twitter, it was as everything was burning down into the slow season. So I was able to, build up a nice little platform and follow in quick because I had the free time.
Mm-hmm.
These days I have to put my primary job first because it's the money here now in my hands. It's my job. Basically, I have to go to work. But in the winter, hopefully this winter, uh, I, I I will be free again to mass produce and focus on letting that be the income that supplements my winter. Because when I have the chance, I actually can bang out a lot of commissions. Um, I just need to get, I mean, it's just tough when your job is art based. So let's say you just did 9, 10 hours of an art based occupation. You get home, do you really want to keep drawing?
Yeah, yeah, that's one of those things. You got to,
It's like
you get burned out quickly.
yeah. So where other people, it's like, oh, I mean, I can't wait to get home and finally get to my art. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta stay up tonight. Oh damn, I have pages. Shit. But when it slows down again, it's gonna be like, oh, word, pages.
It's like that's one of those things. Like people don't realize when if they're not artists and they don't draw on a regular basis, especially like you work in you do tattoos, and then you have like work on JuanPool and all this and that, and commissions, and be a part of the community, and do something that comes to mind. You can get burned out on that. It's just like anybody. It's
Ooh.
like people don't realize it, and it's brutal. It's just brutal to be like that, and it's unfortunate it happens. But we're fucking human. You expect us to be like there's these people that oh, shut up and talk. I don't want to hear anything about you. Talk about your comics, like that kind of thing. Like just like shut up, art monkey, and draw. And they don't realize like how miserable one could be if that's all you do. It's like you just talk about comics, or you talk about your art, and like all the time. It's like, you know what? Cut loose, maybe shit post once in a while. I know it's tempting to like get back into it on a regular basis, or maybe just take a break. That's another thing. Just take a break for a bit, because you'll get burned out, and then you'll just be miserable, and you not want to do anything, and that benefits you. No, that benefits no one.
Nobody. But Mr. Larry King, I just looked at the time.
Yes, I'm about to turn into a pumpkin myself. So, but it's been wonderful to have you on, and
my pleasure.
We're gonna have to do this again sometime soon. Not go so long between streams. And I'd like to thank everybody that jumped in the chat for as long as y'all did. And until next time, folks, make sure check the link in the description. There are links for the Patreon, for the ComixCentral page, for the first issue of JuanPool. I got all your links in there, dude. I got your links. I went and hooked you up. So there's no excuse, people. So jump in there, enjoy it. And until next time, thank you, Troy, Mistah Mahvel, the one and only. And thank you, everyone. And I and we shall see you later.